Master your first reaction.
The easiest way to outsmart 90% of people happens in the first 3 seconds after someone provokes you, and most people get outplayed before they even open their mouth. Right now, you're probably thinking you're in control of your reactions. Someone insults you, and you get to choose how to respond. Someone challenges your idea, and you decide to defend it. But here's what's actually happening. Your nervous system is making decisions faster than your conscious brain can catch up, and by the time you realize you can't control your emotions, you've already started talking. The tightness in your chest, the heat in your face, the words forming before you've thought them through, that's your amygdala hijacking your entire system and shutting your rational brain out of the conversation. The person who triggered you can see it. Your face flushes, your voice falters. They don't need to be smarter or better prepared. They just needed to provoke that reaction, and now they control the room. Mastering your first reaction means catching yourself before your body even starts to respond. The instant you notice the urge to defend yourself or feel your heart rate starting to climb, stop and count backwards from 10 to 1. During those 10 seconds, you're not planning a response or crafting the perfect comeback. You're just breathing slowly and letting the stress chemicals drain enough that your rational brain can catch up. Research shows that adrenaline takes about 6 to 10 seconds to fully flood your system, and if you can ride out that window without reacting, your prefrontal cortex regains control and you get to choose what happens next instead of letting your body decide for you. When you finally speak, your voice is calm and the other person realizes their attempt to shake you didn't work. Now they're the one who looks foolish for trying to provoke you while you stay composed. That 10-second countdown is the difference between being someone who gets manipulated and someone nobody can rattle, and most people will never figure that out. Weaponize silence. When you stop talking, the other person panics and starts destroying themselves. You think conversations are about what you say. They're not. Every conversation you've ever had was just two people competing for control, and whoever talks more is usually the one losing. You fill silences because you think speaking demonstrates confidence, but what you're actually doing is handing away information for free while the other person sits back and catalogs every word. The instinct to fill empty air is so strong that you'll keep talking long after you should have stopped, and the person across from you knows exactly how to exploit that. Silence makes people extremely uncomfortable and forces them to reveal what they're hiding. That discomfort is your leverage. Ask someone a question, get an answer, then don't respond. Just wait. They'll start elaborating without being asked. Wait longer. Now they're justifying, backtracking, offering details they never intended to share. They're not doing this because you demanded it. They're doing it because your silence created psychological pressure their brain interprets as judgment or disapproval, and the only way to relieve that pressure is to keep talking until you give them some signal that the discomfort is over. After someone finishes speaking, hold their gaze and take one slow, silent breath before saying anything. Don't nod, don't make affirming sounds, don't fill the gap. Just hold the space and let it stretch until it gets awkward. By the time they finish scrambling to fill the void you created, they've already told you more than you needed to know. The person who can sit in silence without flinching controls the interaction because everyone else is too uncomfortable to let it last. While they're talking themselves into corners, you're learning exactly what they're trying to hide, and by the time the conversation ends, they'll have no idea how much they just gave away. Use their insecurity against them. The loudest person in the room is usually the most terrified, and you're about to learn how to make their entire act collapse. You know the person. They walk into a room and immediately take up space. Chest out, voice louder than necessary, and eye contact so intense it feels like a challenge. Most people interpret this as dominance and either back down or escalate into a pointless ego war. But what if it's not strength, just insecurity wearing a disguise? The moment you see the difference between real power and theatrical performance, you'll never feel intimidated again. Overcompensation is easy to spot. Their volume is unnecessarily high, and they never stop talking because silence scares them. Their posture is stiff instead of naturally fluid. They're constantly name-dropping or flexing their credentials because they crave external validation, and they perpetually interrupt others so they can maintain control. But watch what happens when higher status enters the room, or when they face real pushback. Real confidence adjusts and holds the space. Fake confidence floods with emotion and defensiveness because you just called the bluff and they know there's nothing underneath. Once you've confirmed the ruse, stay completely unreactive. Their entire strategy depends on provoking a response. When you don't flinch, don't argue, don't validate the performance, panic sets in. Apply subtle pressure with one calm question, such as, "How'd you come to that conclusion?" Give them rope. Stay silent and let them keep talking. They'll over-explain, contradict themselves, and dismantle their own act. Focus on what you can control. You're burning mental energy on things you can't control and things that won't matter tomorrow, while the person you're mad at has already moved on with their life. Last night, you spent 2 hours arguing politics with strangers online. This morning, you're still replaying what your coworker said yesterday. You're furious about traffic, election results, and what some influencer posted. They're living rent-free in your head while you waste energy on battles you never had the power to win. The people leaving you behind already deleted all of it with 2 simple questions. First, can I actually control this? You can't control the election, the traffic, the weather, or what strangers comment online. You can only control how you prepare and how you react. Second, will this matter in 10 hours, 10 days, or 10 weeks from now? If you can't control it or it won't matter by Monday, it's time to let it go. 90% of people waste massive energy on uncontrollable and meaningless variables, and then wonder why nothing in their life improves. Meanwhile, you're pouring all of your focus into what you can actually change and what actually matters. Let them spend 3 hours deep in a Facebook argument while you quietly build the life they keep saying they want but can't figure out how to get. Ask surgical questions. Defending yourself makes you look weak, but asking one calm question makes them scramble while you sit back and watch. Your idea gets attacked in a meeting, and your immediate instinct is to defend it. Explain your reasoning, prove you're right, show everyone the attacker doesn't understand. But defensive people look emotional, and emotional people lose credibility even when they're completely correct. The audience stops listening to your logic and starts watching you react, which means the person who attacked you just won without having to be right. A surgical question flips that dynamic instantly. Instead of defending, ask something simple such as, "What's that based on?" or "What would you do instead?" Then go completely silent and let them answer. The burden of proof just shifted. They're the one under scrutiny now, and if their attack was posturing or personal bias instead of substance, they're about to expose that themselves. You can't ask and then immediately clarify or add your own point. Ask, then wait. Let them fill the space. If their criticism is legitimate, they'll explain it clearly, and you've both learned something useful. If it's empty, they'll fumble or contradict themselves, or reveal they never thought it through. Questions shift the burden. Asking makes them justify their position, and most people haven't prepared for that because they assume you'll get emotional and they can ride your defensiveness to an easy win. When you don't give them that reaction, they're stuck backing up a claim they never expected to explain, and that's when you'll see exactly how weak their position actually was. Read what they're not saying. Words lie, but bodies don't, and you're missing 70% of what people are actually telling you right now. They're swearing they're confident, but their eyes dart to the floor when you challenge them. They claim they're fine with your decision, but their voice gets quiet and their jaw locks. They nod enthusiastically while their feet angle straight towards the door. Most people only hear words and completely miss the contradictory broadcast happening simultaneously, the body leaking the truth before the mouth finishes the lie. What separates you from people getting played in real time is that they listen to what someone says and take it at face value. But you're tracking what their body is actually telling you. Eyes flickering away means they're anxious or lying. Over-explaining when answering simple questions means they're hiding something, and smiles that stop at the mouth and never reach the eyes tell you they're faking it. Observe their baseline behavior first. Watch their posture, tone, and gestures when relaxed. Then look for deviations. When their body contradicts words, believe their body. The body can't lie as easily as the mouth, giving you an early warning system for deception and hidden motives while everyone else accepts the performance as truth. Think 3 moves ahead. Most people lose because they react to what's happening right now instead of seeing what's coming 3 moves later on. Your idea just got attacked publicly, and every instinct is screaming to say something that destroys them and wins this moment. In that split second, you have two options: humiliate them, get the dopamine hit, and torch your credibility in the process, or pause, map out what happens next, and realize that staying calm while they expose themselves elevates you as their pettiness becomes obvious without you saying a word. Before any move, mentally run through the entire consequence chain as well as your ultimate goal. If I do X, they'll do Y, which leads to Z. What happens after this reaction? And then what happens next? What's the ripple effect in a week, a month, a year? They're playing checkers, chasing instant wins, proving they're right, feeding their ego, and getting the last word. You're playing chess, sacrificing small battles to dominate the war, making moves that give you the advantage over time, even if it means letting small disrespects slide or looking weak temporarily. This is how you outsmart 90% of people. They burn bridges for applause, feel great for a day, and wonder a year later why they're stuck in the same place. You're giving up short-term wins while building positional leverage they won't see until it's already over. Checkers asks, "What's in it for me right now?" Chess asks, "What does this cost me in 5 years?" Sometimes you reject good now because unstoppable is 3 moves away. Let people underestimate you. The second someone thinks they've got you figured out, you've already won, and they'll never see it coming. Watch what happens when they dismiss you. Nodding along quietly, not correcting their assumptions, not flexing credentials, not trying to prove how smart you are. And they write you off as harmless, not a threat, not worth paying attention to. And while they're busy underestimating you, they're handing over their entire playbook, revealing plans, strategies, and weaknesses because people tell you everything when they think you're not dangerous enough to matter. Underestimation creates 2 massive advantages. First, people leak way more than they should. They overshare strategies, expose weak spots, and hand you ammunition while you stay quiet and stockpile intelligence. Second, when you finally move, they're completely blindsided by the power you were hiding. They dismissed you from the start, so checkmate never registered as possible until it was already over. Big egos can't handle feeling undervalued even temporarily, so they talk too much, name drop, and show every card trying to prove themselves. It's predictable, it's exhausting. Everyone knows exactly who they are. You do the opposite. Stay quiet, play small, let them dismiss you. While they're performing for the room, you're watching, learning, and positioning for the strike they won't see until it lands. They burned all their credibility trying to look impressive. You saved yours for the moment it actually counts. Most people spend their entire lives getting outplayed without understanding how the game actually works. You just learn the rules. What happens next is entirely up to you.